Hello, welcome to a vlog. So I had my patrons vote on the theme of this vlog. They voted for me to read BookTubers' favorite books of 2020, which I'm very excited. I have just fully stolen this idea from Kayla at Books and Lala. I don't know if she's gonna do that video again this year, but I know she did it last year and read like Natasha and Chelsea's favorite books. But yeah, I just wanted to do it also because it sounds fun. There are a lot of people who I trust their taste a lot on BookTube, but I narrowed it down to the people who have the most similar taste as me because I want this to be successful. And ironically, these are all the hot they thems of YouTube, so maybe there's a theme here. So the first person is Sunny from A Sunny Book Nook, and their like #1 favorite book was a Brandon Sanderson book, or like the book series, like the Mistborn series, I think. But I just know that I cannot get into that. So I'm going with their second choice, which was Girl, Woman, Other. And I've had this as an ebook for a while. I've been meaning to read this anyway, so this is a really good excuse to read this.
Number 2 on this list is Girl, Woman, Other by Bernardine Evaristo. Of course. So fucking good. We're following all these British black women. Well, most of them are black, most of them are women, and it's kind of their experiences in the world. We are following so many different perspectives and lives, but they all kind of intersect in an interesting way. I've talked about this book before in so many videos, but it's so good, and I can't wait to reread it in 2021 and like annotate it and be like all the different profound parts that really resonated with me, because so much of this book did.
I love this, and this was also on Sarah's top books of 2020. So I think that this will be a good reading experience. I'm excited to read it. I know there's also some triggers in this book. But I'll list those down below. Second person is Amanda from Butch Poetics. They recommend the best queer books. Like, I have gotten so many good books from their recommendations. I actually have bought some recently with my like Christmas and birthday gift cards. But I'm going with their #1 pick, which was a book called Loat. I just got this as an ebook as well, because I literally could not find it. Like, my pals didn't have it in stock. Like, all of the local bookstores and independent bookstores didn't have it in stock, at least in the US.
It is my favorite book of the year, and like, if it wasn't for the fact that like I have very loudly proclaimed for years like the autobiography of Red Baron Carson is my favorite book of all time, I think this might be my favorite book of all time. Like, at least like as much as a book for Red, which is like fucking wild because I shaped so much like my identity around like loving that book. But I also love this book, very high praise, which is Loat by Shula von Reinhold. And it's part of the 2020 and 2020 project by Jacob Randers, the UK publisher, where they would publish 20 black British writers like in 1 year, that year being 2020. And this is just, again, I talk about this quite a lot like on the channel, but this is just amazing. It follows like Matilda, who is this like young woman who's like really obsessed with like the bright young things and like modernity, and she like keeps like reinventing herself through their like extravagance, but in like a really amazing like anti-work, anti-state way. It is amazing, and it's definitely worth a read. It has a beautiful cover.
Okay, and then the third person is Wilma from Life Goofer, and they've been getting really into climate fiction and just climate nonfiction. I actually just bought a book on their recommendation, which was This Is Not a Drill. So maybe I'll throw this in as well because this was also on their top books of 2020, but this was like number 8 or something. So I'm going with their #1 choice, which was a book that surprised me when I heard it, and I'd never heard of it before. But it's a book called Barn 8, and it has something to do with like trying like a multiple perspectives, trying to like stage a chicken coop.
Then we have maybe something that would surprise you, and that's Barn 8 by Deb Olin Unferth. So what happened in this book is that it's just so good. It's just so good, like, just read it. So you're following our main character who gets upset with her mother because her mother never told her that her father exists, sort of. And so she runs away to her father to live with her father. While she's at her father, her mother dies in a car accident, and she is stuck with her father forever, even though she doesn't really like him. So her father eventually hooks her up with a person that her mother babysat when she was younger. And so they sort of form a friendship, and they realize that they have a common interest in wanting to rescue these chickens from a chicken farm. It has a really long introduction, but don't worry about it. You'll get into it fine. Then they start to plan this chicken coop where they're trying to steal 1 million chickens from an egg farm. And why is it so good? You follow multiple characters, and you follow even the perspective of a chicken. You follow perspective of someone who is no longer with us. There's a bit of like magical realism, just like this journey. This part where they're like trying to achieve the chicken heist is definitely the most intense action-wise, and at that point it's a page turner. But the ending just blew me away. It's like the book is trying to tell you why factory farming is so terrible, and you think that's what the book is about, but then the ending just like tricks you and switches the plot, and they're like, actually, this is what the book is about, and this is what you should be thinking about, and this is what it's been about all along. And it's so good. It is so good. I love this book. Oh my god.
So those are the 3 main books I want to read, and then honorable mentions here if I have time. I put a hold on Little Weirds by Jenny Slate for the audiobook, and that was Sarah's #1 book from String Bean Books. And then I also watched Angel's video from Jurassic Reads, and I don't think she put hers in order from like least favorite of the favorites to most favorite, but one of the books on there that I found as an audiobook is Catherine House, and I know that's a super like polarizing debated book in this community, so I think that would be pretty interesting to read. I also can get the ebook For Tender is the Flesh from my library, but I don't know if I'm ready to go down that road. I'm gonna go change this poopy diaper, and I will check in again later. Hello. Oh my god. Hello. I look wild. I had this moment the other day. We were watching Lord of the Rings, and I realized that my cool hip shag haircut that I gave myself is hobbit hair. Like, hobbits created the chic little shag. We have them to thank for whatever this is. I just got done at the dentist. My gums are a bit inflamed because of the hormones rushing through my body constantly. But other than that, no cavities, so I feel good about that. Struggled with cavities like my entire life. The last like 2 years I haven't had one, and it feels good to have the dentist say there's no decay. Especially because I have like 25 fillings or something absolutely ridiculous. That's probably it. My teeth are just all fake at this point, so I'm sitting in the car because Cody is now in their dentist appointment. We staggered it because we've got a little baby in the car. Luckily, Otto will sleep forever in the car seat. Our dentist is in like Portland proper, and we're just never in Portland, so I wanted to go just get a little moment of Portland life, going to a cute little hip coffee shop with my baby in a carrier. But I forgot the carrier because we left in kind of a rush, and honestly, it's probably fine because I don't need coffee, and I also don't need to take that additional risk for COVID, so it's fine. I'm fine. We're fine. That's not what this vlog is about. What am I doing? So I am 41% finished, or through. I decided to start with Lote. Let me bookmark this page. I'm 41% into Lote. Very interesting experience. It's like, I mean, it's just, I didn't really know what to expect, I guess, but it's very, I don't know. Okay, I realized, because what did I say in the last clip? This is like an anthology. It's not. I was completely wrong about this. I was right about it being Black queer literature, Black queer British literature, but it is not an anthology. It's just one story. But it's very bizarre. It's kind of like has moments of being in the same vein as Luster by Raven Lalani. Okay, so we follow this woman whose name is Matilda, but she's changed her name a lot throughout the book. Actually, it never specifies that she's like a woman. So we follow this person named Matilda. They don't have really like anything like going for them in the way that we view success in a capitalistic society, but they have these trans fictions on Black queer people from history, and they want to just like learn all about these people regardless of whether or not they were like famous. But it starts out and they're kind of following this Black queer author from like the 1920s or something, and they go to this museum where there a bunch of like photos have come in, and so they're looking at photos and they find like some photos of this person, but they also see this Black woman in one of the photos, and her name's like Hermia Dud or something, and so she's like super interested, like now like this is her new like person that she's fixating on. And we also get like little summaries of like all these people that she has fixated on in the past. So now like it's this woman named Hermia who she knows literally nothing about, but she finds out that there's like an autobiography written about her, but it's like impossible to get. So she contacts her, like the sister of the person who wrote the autobiography, and gets her hands on a copy. Meanwhile, she researches like where this person was like from, or I don't know if it's where they were from or they just like spent time in this place, and they find a like a super old web page that says, it's not a seminar, it's not a retreat, residency. It's a residency. And she's like, okay, I'm gonna apply for this residency and I'm gonna go, and they're gonna pay me a stipend to like live in one of these hotels and be a part of this residency. But she has no idea what it is, and she applies and just writes kind of this like bullshit argument about this topic she doesn't even know, and she gets accepted and goes there and still doesn't know what the fuck this residency is for. I have to turn on a different part of my brain for this kind of reading, you know? It's just not like reading like an epic fantasy, or it's not like reading something that has a bunch of like plot development and character building and world building. Okay. Well, what I found about ebooks that I really like is that I can read them in the middle of the night when I'm feeding Otto, because I don't want to turn on the light and wake them up or keep them up, so I can read it in the dark, which I know is not great for my eyeballs, but you got it. It's either that or I would just be staring at my phone anyway, so I don't know. It's fine. I have blue light blockers on my glasses. So I finished Loat yesterday. Here it is. And I can't stop thinking about it. So like, oh, sorry about the fan noise. I was really confused by this book for a really long time, and I just literally thought that I was too stupid to understand it for like 98% of it. And then I finished it, and I just kept thinking about it. And I think I get it. This book is really interesting. I don't know like what it would fit into. I guess just like literary fiction, but it's written by a lovely they them named Shola von Reinhold, and it follows the story of Matilda, who, I think I explained this a little bit, like gets this residency, right, to go to somewhere to do this thing she like has no idea what it actually is. And then she learns what it is, and she's like becomes somewhat interested in it at some points, but only because of the intersection of her current transfiction, which is this black woman named Hermia / Hestia. And it kind of turns into her like obsessive archival search for more information on this woman who like no one really knows about at all. And that was just such an interesting premise. I don't know. It sounds boring, and I thought I would be bored by it, but the obsession like truly consumes her, and she moves into this relationship with this other person who is also obsessed with kind of the same people and the same concepts, and this group that Hermia was apparently a part of called the Lot-Os, which is like this anti-imperialist communist group for luxury, and it turns this idea on its head of that luxury can only exist for like white Eurocentric Europeans and Americans. And then we get this idea that luxury can exist within a communist lifestyle, or like not a wealthy lifestyle, and that it can also belong to black people. Like a really interesting standpoint, because these people like really get, at first they're almost like mocking the idea of luxury, but it really becomes like who they are, just like drinking like nice wine, just like never really having like a care for capitalism. Like capitalism is so displaced in this book, it doesn't even feel like it's a part of reality. And I think that was just written really intelligently. I think Otto was awake for like 2 hours last night, and I was just thinking, and actually I was dreaming as well, about the idea of aesthetics. And like this book is so heavily influenced by aesthetics, and like that's like this person's like entire existence is based in aesthetics, and is trying to like be, I don't know, like her transfictions are like based in the aesthetics of like these people who lived long ago, or like in the 20s, and their lives, and the music she listens to, the clothing she wears, the way that she just like moves through her life, the cigarettes she smokes, are all rooted in aesthetics, right? So this got me thinking about my own life. Let's do a little story time for you. I think I've had like a pretty interesting relationship with aesthetics in general, and I think I grew up in Salem, Oregon, which is like a very I would say it's more known for its Proud Boys than its hipsters, but there is a pretty large hipster population there, and the downtown area of Salem is super cute. It's like very historic, other than like the mall that was built into the downtown area. But I was definitely consumed by the aesthetics of it as a teenager, and would like everything I did was for the aesthetics, right? Like I would go to the coffee shop and I would sit there and I would read bell hooks and like shit that I didn't really understand, but it was right across the street from like the best bookstore, and like I just love the aesthetics of like going to get coffee, smoking a cigarette outside, and reading a book that I just got at the book bin. And even specifically, like, oh yeah, okay, so this dream prompted this realization of aesthetics, because last night I had a dream that I was in a mall. I was in a Zoomies. I don't even know if Zoomies exists anymore, but I was in a Zoomies, and the guy working at the counter was like, hey, I want to give you a pack of cigarettes. What do you want? And I chose the dark blue American Spirits, which is like not what I used to smoke. Like, it was either yellow pack or light blue, right? Or red if I was doing rollies or spliffs. Anyway, so I just like in this dream was just smoking the cigarette and like got sucked back into just the aesthetics of like being this hipster at this coffee shop, smoking a cigarette, drinking coffee, reading a book, and also drinking like a shot in the dark, like not even, like now I'm such a, I don't know, like I will just get like a dirty chai or like a vanilla latte. I don't know who I've become. Honestly, like I pretty much only drink decaf now too. Like okay, we'll get there. So my life was just so rooted in the aesthetics. I was literally like listening to the Smiths and the Violent Femmes 24/7. Like my physical aesthetic was very just you know, like jean jacket, like hipster, airing on punk, because that's kind of the hipster scene in Salem, is like it moves fluidly through the punk scene as well. That was like who I was, and or who I at least thought that I was. And then and especially like the queerness of it, I was obsessed with. Like like walking hand in hand with a girl in Salem was like, I just thought I was, you know, the hottest queer shit, which to be fair probably was. Somehow got into rock climbing. Okay, this was like not like the most obvious like transition, right? Because before I was like, I don't need to exercise, fuck that, like this that's like, I was just not into, I think occasionally I would like go on a hike, but it was usually to go smoke a lot of weed, you know, and like have that experience. And anyway, so then I get into rock climbing and I moved to Seattle. Right when I moved to Seattle, I still had that like hipster queer aesthetic, and especially because the only people I was hanging out with in Seattle were people that I knew from Tumblr. So this was very much Tumblr era, okay? So I am hanging out with people from Tumblr, having a lot of sex, like living my best like 19-year-old self life. I was also like squatting in this house in West Seattle with my brother, and I mean, I think the owners knew that we lived there, but it was a weird situation. Basically, it was this house in West Seattle, which was just, I mean, for the last 10 years probably has just been like gentrified to hell. And we were like living in the only house on the block that still existed, just surrounded by condos, like waiting for this house to be demolished at any point. So then when the time finally came where it was getting demolished, that's when I moved into my van. Literally because like I genuinely had nowhere else to go. Like I couldn't afford to live in Seattle, so I got a minivan instead. And this is when I started working at the climbing gym and living in the parking lot. And my aesthetic changed so dramatically that like I couldn't even like talk to people anymore who weren't climbers. Like I was so just like tunnel vision, only knew how to talk about climbing. Everything from my past just like pretended it didn't exist. So weird. And then my aesthetic was, of course, you know, like so like the lost and found at the climbing gym, we would donate every like 6 weeks or something, but staff could pick through it. I don't know if that was like legit or not, or if we just did it, but literally my wardrobe of like OR and Patagonia and Arc'teryx came from the lost and found at the climbing gym. And it was hard because I wanted to like maintain this aesthetic of like having money, because that's of like having money but also being a dirtbag. It's such a weird, the climbing community is very strange because it's so rooted in privilege, and yet people want to make it seem like they have nothing. I don't know, maybe that's like rooted in like purism or something, but they just like only want to be focused on the rock. So yeah, I was living in my car and doing a lot of climbing outside, smoking so much weed, and in a very toxic relationship with a vet who was a lot older than me, and kind of ruined climbing for me in a lot of ways. So we broke up. I said fuck you to Seattle, moved back to Salem, started working at my old middle school, but also at the new climbing gym. Was training so fucking hard because I was just so depressed. And this is when I met Cody. Cody was going to the university there at the time, which is like breeding grounds for hipster aesthetic. It's like prestigious, but also like, again, everyone at that school just wants to be like the most. Cody was like really into film photography, and I had Callie at that point already, my dog, and Cody wanted to impress me, so Cody got a dog. And then we were like already planning kind of a date. I already knew that I was gonna pursue that. And then we matched on Tinder. And then Cody came over and never left. But like that was also so rooted in like smoking so many spliffs. I hear Otto crying. There's just a lot to that. So then my aesthetic just like was kind of like in limbo between, again, like the hipster aesthetic, but also the climber aesthetic. And I was just like, and then Cody was like, there's this thing called normcore. And I was like, you mean you just dress like a regular person? And then Cody and I moved back into a van, and then it was like that again, but a little bit different. I wasn't as serious about it. We were smoking a lot of really shitty weed, and eating pretty much exclusively gas station burritos and just not feeding ourselves well at all. And so that didn't turn out well at all. That was not a good aesthetic. But still, like, so much of what I was doing was rooted in the aesthetic of, like, needing to be someone who doesn't give a shit, who has no fear, and who climbs fucking hard. Like, that was where I was until I realized that I had experienced so much trauma in the past few years that I was like, wow, I cannot do this. Like, my brain will not let me move further in this thing that I'm doing. So then we came back to Cody's hometown, and we've been here for a while, and now I feel like my aesthetic is rooted in, like, unfinished barn, you know, or like never doing my hair, just like looking like a wreck all the time. So I don't know. And like, obviously in pregnancy, I just was so gone, and I'm just starting to like come back into my body again, and I'm like, I don't know what my aesthetic is. I don't know what aesthetic even needs to be, you know? Is it something that I care about? What is the purpose of aesthetic, you know? Because in this book, this group of people are so consumed by the idea of becoming an image, or of living a life where she's just like hopping from, you know, like hotel to hotel. Like, I don't know. And so much of her identity is rooted in her philosophies. And like all of these people, their identities are their philosophies. So there's this thing in this book called thought art, and where they're like trying to remove all asceticism from their identity, but then like that becomes their identity. And it's just, this book is just so intelligent, and I didn't expect to like go down this like rabbit hole of thought, but it really, I don't know, I guess when you read books that are written intelligently, you have intelligent thoughts. I have started Barn 8 by Deb Olin Unferth, and this is it. I was just like quickly looking at the reviews of this, and it's pretty much either like 5 stars or 1 stars. So we love a controversial pick like that. I read like 100 pages last night, again, like in Otto's awake and feeding periods. And it's very interesting following this girl named Janie, who finds out her dad exists and leaves her mom when she's 15 to go see him in this like small Iowa town. But then while she's there, she's just like too stubborn to come back because she's mad at her mom for lying to her about her dad. While she's there, her mom dies. And so, trigger warnings for death of a parent and car crash. So she just has to stay there. And she starts working with this auditor, and they go around auditing chicken farms and just like stealing the chickens, and then taking the chickens to this random guy's house and just leaving them there. And then they're like, we're gonna stage a chicken coup, and we're going to steal an entire factories or entire farms supply of chickens, like 1 million chickens. So they're like gathering people to help them pull this off. But it's also like, why? They're like, it's gonna really make people think. And you're like, okay, but why? I don't know, we also like follow a bunch of different perspectives, like including a chicken. And it's a very strange time.
Hello.
emerging out of the womb myself. I finished Barn 8. First of all, let me say, Lote is really affecting me. I can't stop thinking about that book. But anyway, I finished Barn 8 last night. It was so strange. Like, so strange. It was kind of, I feel like there's like a category of books that I've read somewhat recently that I can just categorize as fever dream. And like, for example, the book Fever Dream itself fits into that description, but also like Earthlings fits into that. The Seep a little bit fits into that. Just like very, literally the one time Bella actually eats her food. I don't know, it was like an interesting ride, an interesting exploration. I don't know that I loved it, but it was definitely like entertaining and fast paced, and you just like, there wasn't much depth with any of the characters, but I don't think that was the intention. And I'm still kind of trying to decide like what the intention was from the author. That like part of the interest in this book is like the statement on the effects of climate change, but also like it's really weird because, I mean, Wilma already described this, but it sets you up like so you think it's like going to be this, I guess, statement on factory farming. And like that's why they're stealing all these chickens, I guess. But that's not really why. And I don't know that the why was ever super clear to me, so I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this book. But I think if you like those like kind of weird fever dream books that are like what the fuck kind of books, I think you'll like this book. I do think that it deserves a little bit more hype because it's very interesting. Okay. I have moved on. I'm reading Girl, Woman, Other, and I am 100 pages in. This book is 500 pages on ebook. 500 pages. That is so long. I haven't read a book that long since I read The Dragon Republic. I don't know if I've ever read like a contemporary novel that long, to be honest with you. It's a lot. So yeah, but we're getting through it really fast. It's like, it feels like a quick read. So I'm already 100 pages in and I haven't really, I mean, I've just been reading it like at night when Otto wakes up. And I just started it last night, so it's pretty good. I mean, theoretically, I think I can finish it like in a couple days. I'm gonna pay attention to my baby now. This might not mean a lot to you, but this is our first snow. This is Otto's first snow. we're out. Okay, so I finished Girl, Woman, Other last night. I also read the entirety of I'm Afraid of Men by Vivek Shreya, but that wasn't for this. That was just because Otto decided to not sleep at all last night. So that was extremely fun. We were supposed to have a doctor's appointment this morning for Otto, who hasn't seen a doctor since week 1 because their insurance is through Medicaid and it just takes forever to like get them registered. And for my doctor to see them, she had to like specifically request to see them as a patient because they don't usually take Medicaid as insurance. So it's this whole thing. We were getting ready for their appointment this morning, and then like the office receptionist called and was like, yeah, we can't see Otto because their insurance hasn't gone through. And I'm like, this is a 3-week-old baby who just needs to see the doctor. So I cried. A 3-hour nap, which was amazing. I'll never take napping for granted again. Finished Girl, Woman, Other. This is like, I was totally wrong going into it. I thought it was the story of 3 people, like literally a woman, a girl, and a non-binary person. But it's, for the most part, I think it's like 12 women, but one of them is discovering their gender nonconformity, like within their own passage, like their name and pronouns change in the passage. God, the snow is fucking gorgeous. Just learned how to use this wrap yesterday and it has been transformative. Otto falls asleep immediately. I should have used it last night. I just don't know what I was thinking. But it's like so comfortable. It's like wearing a t-shirt. And they're just so close and cuddly. I liked this book. I didn't love it. I think it's because in a lot of ways, I don't connect with womanhood. So this really like showcases the dynamics of being a Black woman specifically and like what that means within relationships. It kind of like within like these 12 chapters or whatever, it really goes like deeply into details, like spans like each person's like entire life, and it's kind of like all leading up to this play that like the first character we're introduced to is has written and directed, and it's just like it's like tragic in a lot of ways. There's just a lot of really unfortunate relationships, not a lot of positive ones, to be honest. And I think, yeah, it just shows like the complexities and the dynamics of being a Black woman. Whether you're from Africa and learning how to kind of like fit the code of being either in London or some of it takes place in the US as well. Or if you're born in the US, or if you're born in London and are trying to like learn about your identity and also what it means to be a queer Black woman or a queer Black non-binary person. I definitely was the most interested in Morgan's like section because Morgan is the non-binary person. And like that, I was fucking eating it up. Yes. And some other characters referenced Morgan later on, kind of as this like Twitter, like Twitter person who was like calling people out for being transphobic. But we also had one character who was like, this person called me out for being transphobic because I said I wanted my festival to be like women-born women, because like women-born men don't know like the actual struggles of that. And I just thought, like, while I understand that take in feminism, like that it's different, right? Not necessarily more like oppressed. It's just read a little transphobic, so that was kind of weird. And maybe that was just like, you know, just supposed to be that character's flaw, but I was like a little bit jarring. So I don't know. This was fucking 500 pages. I read it really fast though. It didn't feel like 500 pages at all. It felt like maybe like 300, which was weird. Maybe it's just, I think like sometimes I just get into the groove of an ebook or just of reading ebooks and I can read them really fast. I would say like I'll give this like maybe 4 stars. So I think this and Barn 8 were 4 stars. Lote, the whole time I was reading it, I was like, okay, this is like a 3 or a 4 star. But it's just stuck with me so much. And I see similarities between Lote and Girl, Woman, Other because they're both like written by queer Black British authors and talk to that experience. But I don't know. There's just something about Lote. That's what I read for this vlog, and it was a very fun time. I think I'm gonna end it. It's like the 26th, I think, today, and I have 2 more books on my physical TBR that I'm buddy reading and have been severely slacking on, so I'm gonna try to get to those. I also just like organized my bookshelf and turned that diaper cart into my TBR cart because we just realized it was not necessary because we're just like taking the diaper stuff up and down stairs anyway, so we have like a little diaper caddy instead, and that's been working out really well. So now I can use this as my TBR cart and it's beautiful. So I'll show you my organization structure. Okay, so this is my bookshelf. Ignore the log. Callie! Ignore my nachos. Callie just thought someone was busting in. Okay, so these are my 5-star books. Those are books I'm currently reading or have read for my January TBR. There's more, but now they're like on the couch. These are the rest of my read TBR fiction, and then those are my non-fictions and classics, and then those are my library books. And then my unread, my actual TBR, which has expanded greatly. So yeah, here it is. The top shelf is all Black authors. I'm not sure if this author is Black or not, but they just looked good there. So these are all things that I'm gonna potentially pick for my February TBR. Back here, we just have some of my graphic novels and some books that I'm reading for a future vlog. And yeah, those are all the books that I own. So yeah, I guess that's the end of this vlog. Thanks for hanging around. I want to go outside, but it's cold.